Welcome to this presentation for Year 9 parents, carers and students, where we hope to be able to show you the options that will be available for you from September 2021 and the process that we're about to get started with all our Year 9 students to help them to choose their courses for next September. My name is Mr. White, I'm one of the Vice Principals here at SBL. To complement this presentation, we strongly recommend that parents read the accompanying booklet, which gives a clear explanation and an introduction from Mr. Anderson, an idea of the timeline, the current national picture with regard to education in the UK, the 3 pathways that we have available for you, a little bit more information about our process, and then very importantly a list of the support and the subjects which are available to you. We think it's really important that you gain a detailed understanding of those, because it gives a clear understanding of what children will be studying and the differences, the key differences that students might find in Key Stage 4, which may be different to what they have experienced in Key Stage 3. A clear understanding of that will be really beneficial for all of our students. Please also note the timeline has changed from the booklet. Parents were sent the booklet before the holidays and it's also available here via this email. These are the virtual video guides. There are 2 of them, a shorter version and a longer version. We will send some videos home shortly around subjects which students aren't yet familiar with, and there will be a parents' evening shortly to discuss matters with individual teachers. We've extended the deadline slightly to Friday the 12th of February in order to give parents and families a bit longer to consider what the options might be, but we would appreciate answers being back by that time. So, just to get things started, we want to help you to understand what it is we're trying to achieve for all of the young people that study at SBL. One of the things we're looking to do is to what we call maximise progression. So we want our children to be able to move on to the most aspirational courses or routes possible to them, so that everyone is doing their very best. So they do their best whilst they're in Key Stage 4, and they do so well that they can move hopefully into post-16 study, whether that be with us, SBL, or somewhere else, or onto a really good programme elsewhere, such as an apprenticeship. But whatever it is, that is the right thing for that young person, and it's the most that they could achieve. We also want children to be aspirational. Sometimes we find it in those of us who worked in lots of schools, sometimes children don't believe that they can actually achieve certain things. Well, we know through our experience that they really can. They're really capable of doing extraordinary things if they're prepared to put the effort in, if they're prepared to put the work in. For lots of the children at SBL, for example, going to university should be an option. And we want to give them that option. Whether children choose to go or not is up to them. But we want them to have that option when they're 18, so then they know they can make a positive choice to do what they want. We also want to give a set of choices which allow personal interest to be pursued. I think we've got a really wide choice of courses that we'll be able to see a little bit later in this presentation, where there's a real range of interests that can be pursued. And the other thing we want to do is to minimise timetable constraints. And what that means is we use quite sophisticated methods of putting our timetable together to allow as many children as possible to do the things that they would love to do. And so we don't just, as those of us who went to school perhaps back in the 80s, blocks of subjects, you've got to choose one from this block of subjects. Well, you might not want to choose anything from some of the blocks. Well, we try and get rid of that so that children get lots of the things that they want to do. Not everyone will be able to study everything they want. That isn't always possible, but lots of young people will. And that's been our experience in recent years. And so we want our parents to understand precisely what we mean by the word curriculum. Well, there will be a range of courses that students will be able to study from September of 2021. Parents are probably familiar with the idea of GCSE. We also do courses that are called BTECs and VCerts and Cambridge Nationals. There are also unexamined courses, PSHE, where we look at a wide variety of things around students' health, sexual health, mental well-being, finance, family life and so on, which are not examined but we think are really, really important, and also some core PE, which we also believe to be important. That is not an examined part of our course. Curriculum also can look a little bit like this. So this, those of you who love to see how things fit together, we'll see here that students next year will study English 9 periods, Maths 8 periods, Science 10 periods for lots of students. Some will study a little bit more than that, depending on the route they take, and there will be 4 choices. Typically 5 periods of humanities, and then 3 other, B, C and D here, 3 other subjects, 5 periods a fortnight each, adding up to 20, and then 3 periods of PE. So you can see that in total 50 periods per fortnight are studied for our students in years 10 and 11. If you want to find a bit more about our curriculum, you can see that via the website. Click on any one of the links for any of the particular subjects or areas that you're interested in, and then you can see some real detail there. Here's an example from IT, what your children are studying this year. Gives some really detailed information here, some physics there, and other science at the top also. We also look a bit wider than that. We also think our assemblies are really important, and we have a planned rota, where different staff will get involved in delivering different messages, and it's themed across the terms. It gives you a little flavour there of the things that we've delivered at various times here at SBL. One of the things that we know is really important for a large number of our students is getting an understanding of what is available at sixth form. It may well be that students choose that route, it may well be they don't, but what we do believe is that students have got a really good idea about what's available at our school, but also elsewhere. And we will be spending quite a bit of time over the course of this year and years 10 and year 11 so that students can understand the kinds of things that are available. We also want to make sure that whatever happens, that young people can get on the right courses for them for September. We want them to have a lot of choice, and we think we've got that through our curriculum. And we also think that the subjects that our students will study have got real respect. They're nationally respected courses that are studied in schools right across the country, and they'll be understood and transportable. You'll be able to passport from one institution to another because you've studied this particular award. They have real currency. Essentially, we're trying to get our young people to have the absolute maximum from their experience. Of course, there have been some difficulties in the last few months. At SBL, we've managed to keep our school open, which is a real advantage for our students, we think, and we will endeavour to do that right the way through year 9 and, of course, hopefully into year 10 and 11. By then, hopefully, there'll be fewer problems. But whatever it is that we can do, we know that we're looking to get the maximum that we can for our young people. There are also lots of messages that we give along the way. We want our parents to know what they are so that perhaps you can use them at home as well. We genuinely believe that what you put in is what you'll get out, and life is as good as you make it. Of course, there's bits and pieces of luck along the way, but we know that just hard work, day in, day out, really does bear the fruit, and we're seeing that at SBL all the time. We also know that, once again, really tiny bits of luck, but really it does come down to careful planning and hard work, and not just hoping for the best. And once again, we've got so many examples of that in our current post-16 of young people who have applied themselves for a long period of time. They're the ones who really do seem to do the best. We're also not great fans of excuses. Of course, once again, we'd always want to acknowledge that things can happen in people's lives, and sometimes those things are sad things. But generally, excuses, we know that employers aren't terribly interested in excuses. They just simply want to know, have children got the qualifications they need in order to sort of meet their requirements? And that's what we will be focusing on. We want to make sure that the opportunities that are available at SBL are well understood by our students and used to the maximum. We help our students to understand that there are lots of people around who all want the same things that they do, and that they are competing against the people in typically the towns and cities you can see here. And equally, they have got opportunities in those towns and cities, not just our fabulous city of Bristol, but they can go to work in Bath, Taunton, Cardiff, Swindon, Reading, London, and lots of other places too. There are lots of opportunities in our community and much further afield. Equally, there are young people elsewhere who also want those opportunities, So we have to make sure our students are in the position to make the best of the opportunities available. We try and make sure that students understand that they will leave with something very tangible in terms of an set of exam certificates. They're always available at the end of year 11 and year 13, and what is written on there will have a significant impact for our children. And we try and balance this, of course, with lots of other things, but we can't take that fact away that qualifications really do matter. We know that 80% of our students should be considering a place at university into the future. And our job isn't to make that choice for our students, but what we do want to do is help them so that when they do have the chance to make that choice, they can positively do so because they've got the qualifications they need. And we'll explain a little bit of our thinking a bit later in this presentation. We know that 95% of our students should be considering going to post-16 to either study something like A-levels or other courses, perhaps at what's called level 2, which is at GCSE level. That would be a perfectly reasonable thing to do for actually the vast majority of our students. If students were looking to go to post-16, and this is something we need to be thinking about now to an extent, certainly for some students, there's a wide range of courses. Similar things in some cases to what you might see at GCSE, so typically there are sciences, computer science, biology, photography, all courses you can study at GCSE, but also some courses that you can't. So I pick out of this list here law, philosophy, digital media, which haven't necessarily been part of our GCSE landscape up to now. These are things that will be available at post-16, and that's something we want our students to become aware of. We'd also advise our students to start thinking that if they've already starting to get ideas of subjects they might like to study at A-level, then they need to understand that really what they're looking for in terms of grades are a 5 or a 6 at GCSE in that subject. We know that our data tells us that the vast majority of SBL Year 9s are capable of achieving at least a grade 5 in maths or English. So for those of us who went to school a little while ago, that's a high C or a low B in maths and English. Equally, that's true in science also, and we also know that achievement in those subjects is very, very important in terms of accessing subjects outside of English, maths and science. What you learn in those subjects can have a big impact elsewhere also. So a really solid base of knowledge there is really helpful. We're also really interested in making sure our children understand the availability of apprenticeships. There's been a little bit of a reduction in young people going through the route of apprenticeships, but we think they're really good for a number of young people, and we'll make sure that those opportunities are very well understood as children move through Key Stage 4 for the students at SBL that may want to go in that direction. Talked quite a bit about exam results. We think they're important, but there are other things too that we think really do need to be considered along the way. There are going to be key times ahead. We know that there'll be job interviews, college interviews, post-16 interviews, university interviews for some, and they'll be meeting important new people along the way, people who will be able to change the lives of our students, and also times where our students' character will be tested. We want to help them prepare for those times. As members of staff, it's a privilege to watch students developing their skills every day, but also developing their character. At some point, they're going to need to be a presentable, interesting, intelligent, charming, funny, communicative, empathetic, ambitious young person. And we want to do our bit with you as parents to ensure that they're ready for that. These are things that aren't just turned on at the flick of a switch. These are qualities that we build over time. And we want our students to be thinking about that. Also, there are other really important roles that we often take in life. Many of our students will be partners to someone, maybe married, maybe not. There'll be maybe a father, maybe a mother to a child. They'll continue to be a son or a daughter to you, to parents. And we also know that they'll be an employee, a workmate, someone that others rely on in the workplace. And building that character takes time. It takes sometimes to make mistakes. It takes positive experiences too. but we want to provide all of that for our children at SBL. We'll also take time this year to make sure students understand that qualifications can really have a big impact on what can be earned in the workplace. So we'll show them slides such as this, which, for example, shows that a young person at 22 going into, for example, dentistry can expect to earn in the region of £30,000 a year. Someone who goes into civil engineering, £24,000 a year, 24.5 actually. You'll see from the chart here, these are the facts and figures that are presented to us as a school. We want our young people to understand them too. We know that with A-levels, equally, perhaps if you leave after A-levels, the salaries aren't quite as high, but equally, typically, you can see here an example, and we want our children to understand what these terms and what these figures mean. An estate agent typically may go and earn £15,000 after A-levels, and we'll help them to understand about tax and national insurance and a little bit about what that means in terms of take-home pay. Perhaps something that can also be looked at home. We help them understand that similarly for a graduate job, so that's after university, slightly higher salary, as you can see, typically what that can mean. We also will help children to understand if they think about buying their own home, what does that mean? What are the terms? What's a mortgage, for example? How is it paid? And so on. All these things are bits of work that we'll do over the next 2 or 3 years with our students so that they can understand the responsibilities of adult life and the decisions that they make now, how that might go on to affect them into the future. So we'll think an awful lot about careers over the next 3 years. We think it's hugely important at SBL, and we want our children to understand what is possible. We're told that the UK's 24 leading universities, they define some of the more important subjects, particularly at A-level, that they believe are important for children to take. And here's some examples of them. They're called facilitating subjects. So biology, chemistry, physics, English literature, maths and further maths, geography, history, modern languages, all courses that are particularly valued. They're called facilitating subjects. That's not to say that other courses aren't really useful too, but these are perhaps some of the higher level, more academic subjects that are valued by our very best universities, and our students are very capable of taking them. So really what we're saying to our students and to our families too is that we'd really love it if you can buy into what we're trying to offer. So buy-in, that means believe in it, get involved in it, follow the advice you're given, because if you do that, we really do believe that the pathway for our students is a very positive one. They are excellent. We really enjoy working with them and teaching them and actually spending a lot of time with them during school terms. They're good fun, and we want the best for them, and we hope that parents will come with us on that. We typically found that to be the case, and we look forward to that. And a lot of positivity over the next 2.5 years because, like I said, as we said, a year group with real potential. So now on to the main part of the evening. So we've explained some terms, some ideas, some of the things we think are important. Of course, families will have their own ideas, but we want now to explain what we believe in terms of choosing the courses and some things to think about. So we use the term a pathway. For us, it's a collection of courses that allows a student to enter the next phase of education after Year 11 with the best possible qualifications. All pathways offer the chance to study English, mathematics, science and humanities qualifications. We'd also want to add that all of the pathways would allow all of our students to go to university and to get to post-16 if they get the right level of qualification. So the first pathway we're going to look at is the English Baccalaureate pathway. This is the most challenging of the academic pathways. It allows all students who take the pathway to do English, maths, double or triple science. There's a choice of language that would need to be taken, history or geography, plus a choice of 2 other subjects. It is what's often referred to as the gold standard pathway, and will undoubtedly lead, if successful, to excellent post-16 and university opportunities. In your booklet, you'll see this is what it looks like. So here at the top you can see these are the subjects that you will absolutely study. That is part of the curriculum, and that's not a matter of choice. But here are choices. If you want to take this pathway, you then choose from French or German, you then choose from history or geography, and then be able to choose from this range of courses here. One of the things that we'd want to draw your attention to, we try to highlight by use of the term prac, which means practical, subjects which have got a higher quantity of practical activities and perhaps coursework, which may mean fewer exams at the end. Some students may wish to study fewer exams. We'll talk a bit more about that later for reasons which perhaps are a bit different from those of us who went to school in the 80s. Things have changed quite a bit now for our young people, and we'll explain a bit more about that in a moment. So that's the English Baccalaureate pathway. And just to look at this example here, we can see that this particular student has taken the non-optional subjects, of course, English, Maths, Combined Science, English History, of course, but what they have chosen is to do Geography and French. Could have also done History or German, but this example they haven't, and then chosen 2 optional subjects of Art and Engineering. Fantastic set of qualifications there that would lead to excellent opportunities at post-16. The next route we look at is the academic pathway. Similarly, a really strong pathway which will allow progress to post-16 and onto university if you wish. Looks very similar. There is a change, however. Of course, there are subjects that are studied by all students: English, Maths and Science, some PE and PSHE, all of those things will be studied by all students. But in this particular option, there's only one box here which is optional. You can choose French, German, History, Geography or Computer Science. You'll have to do one of those. But then you have a slightly increased number of options here. We will allocate 3 of these as opposed to only 2 in the previous pathway, the EBAC pathway. Very similar here. The difference is that this student will not leave with a language qualification. They just got 1 humanities, so really high quality subjects here, and 3 optional ones for this particular student. That's what we call our academic pathway. Our final pathway is called the vocational pathway. Similarly, very high quality, will allow a student to get to university and to post-16. But what we're saying for this particular pathway, and we will recommend it for some of our students, that we would suggest choosing from this range of courses where there's a higher degree of practical activities and coursework. Typically, one of the issues that students can face now is at the end of year 11, there may be between 20 to 25 different examinations that have to be taken in May and June in the main, sometimes in July, and that's a huge number of papers. Lots of children can cope with that really well, but for some, it might be better to do some coursework along the way. And this particular group of subjects here perhaps offer that opportunity to do more work as you go and a little bit less in terms of final exams. But that's something that parents will want to think about. Still, a really high quality pathway. This particular student, very similar to the others in that the English, Maths, Science qualifications for all, of course. So this student chose to do Geography, and they got Art, an ICT award and an Engineering award. That's our vocational pathway. That will, once again, will get you to university. That will get you into post-16, really high quality stuff. We believe languages are really important. For our students, currently, for our current year 9, they are studying French or German, and those are the options that we have. We would absolutely recommend that our students strongly consider this. We think it's a really strong marker of an excellent academic education. We recognise also that for some, that won't be a route that some students will want to follow, but for a large number of this very talented year group, we will be recommending that they do take a language. We also want to talk about science. We will be making some recommendations to you that come directly from our science team. We have 2 courses. One is called Combined Science, that's essentially worth 2 GCSEs. Triple Science is worth 3. Both subjects will allow you to do post-16 science. Triple Science arguably prepares you a little bit better, but those are things that you might want to be talking about with your science teacher when the opportunity arises. Our science team will be recommending a route for you. That will be coming home to you with a letter as soon as we are able to hand that out to our students. We also want to draw our attention to, well, it's firmly our belief that there's really no such thing as boys' subjects and girls' subjects. This may have been an idea that may have existed, but it certainly did when I was at school, if I'm perfectly honest with you, and we're really keen to make sure that that idea does not exist now. Perfectly okay for our students, regardless of their gender, to go into any route they want to. Really common now to see, for example, our young women going into science, going into maths, going into engineering, technology subjects. Equally, for boys to go into caring professions and so on. Many routes, and what we certainly won't be engaging. We'd encourage our parents to do the same, is to not limit the options of our students in that particular way. So, moving on now to some final bits of advice. A-level study. If you think you'd like to take an A-level in a subject into the future, then you're usually better off studying it as a GCSE, as it will prepare you well for that particular route into the future. Just something that is recommended by our universities, and something that we would like to pass on to our students. So, we would like to strongly recommend that our families and our students in particular are incredibly ambitious. They really can afford to be. They're a really strong year group, got the world at their feet really, if they make the right set of choices and with the right mindset. Please give some strong consideration now to the subjects that you might like to study now in September when you begin year 10, but also maybe think about your A-levels too. Really think about that. Think about your post-16 routes. Think about your college routes. Where do you think your future might take you? If you're not entirely sure, that's okay. Study some really good quality courses, but if you've got some idea, talk to us. In particular, if you're interested in medicine or veterinary opportunities, these are things that you need to consider now and get the right set of GCSE choices. Because what you don't want is to decide that you might have liked to have been a doctor when you're in post-16, but you didn't do the right GCSEs because even now that will in fact have an impact on the future. Shortly we will be sending you our recommendation for the pathway that we think will be best, but ultimately this will be your choice. There'll also be some instructions on how to enter your choices. This needs to be done by the 12th of February. And on now to our final thought really as we leave you. We really do think it's a 3-way process here, 3-part puzzle at SBL, which we're really hoping to work with our parents and students to get right. We think it's very much partly academic development, academic progress, combined with personal development, so the progress as a person, as an individual, and then onto pastoral care. So us working with parents to take care with students for their well-being, so that if we get all these 3 things right, we have a very happy individual that's academically developed, personally developed, and is able to go on to be a happy and successful person. We know that our Year 9 students are a superb group of young people and absolutely ready for the next stage of development, and we wish them all the best with this process. Please, a final invitation, do be in touch with us if you're at all unsure. If there's some clarification you require, we'll be doing our very best to assist wherever we can. But with that, many thanks for listening, and all the best in making these important choices.